Hello and welcome back to World Talks with me, Anna Kalczyńska. And this time we focus on Georgia, whose eastward drift continues. Members of Georgia's ruling Georgian Dream party voted to revoke the mandates of 49 opposition parliamentarians. The vote effectively brings the total number of Georgian parliamentarians down to 101 of the total 150 elected in the disputed parliamentary elections, all of which now sit under the Georgian Dream party banner. To discuss the future of Georgia and its increasing alignment with Russia, I'm joined now by Grigol Julukhidze, Associate Professor, Caucasus University. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So as we learn, the immediate reason for this revoke was that the opposition members of parliament refused to sit down, citing concern over the legitimacy of the results on the October parliamentary elections. So it's hard to imagine what's next. What's the situation right now in the democratic Georgia?
Exactly. It is very difficult to predict what's going to happen in Georgia because the situation is being changed dynamically on a daily basis, and unfortunately to the worst direction. It means that the coming months will be extremely hard for these Eastern European countries. For the political crisis, we notice how the dynamics moves on because of the latest decisions of the ruling party, the Georgian Dream, to remove almost all the factually opposition seats away from the Georgian parliament. It means that the legislative body of Georgia will be something between formal and technical executive and executor of the Georgian government's demands. Of course, it is a murky reality and a dark picture for the future of this country, as I have already mentioned, but this is the reality in which we live. And the creation of the artificial opposition, of course, looks and seems to be quite funny because it will serve only to somehow legitimize the decisions and the resolutions of this parliament, and will have, of course, no impact and will have nothing in common with the real political life. But this is Georgia, this is the reality in which this country lives.
So apart from removing the opposition from the parliament, Georgian Dream party announced the introduction of new laws targeting media and NGOs. Let's have a listen to how they argument this idea.
Public organizations that wish to promote Georgian interests rather than foreign influences in our country will be able to receive grant funding from the Georgian government. We promise society that the more pressure, coercion, blackmail, and attempts to infringe on Georgia's independence and create unrest and chaos in our country, the more severe the response will be, continuing through legal and political measures to prevent all this. We are committed to ensuring that our country will never again be subjected to blackmail, our institutions will be strong, and no one will ever dare to interfere in Georgia's internal affairs, violate its independence, or disrespect the decisions of the Georgian people.
So, as we see, the government is tightening its grip on power by introducing new, harsher laws. Where can it lead to, and what can the opposition effectively do in this situation?
It is another step towards the consolidation of power. It means that the West is losing in Georgia, and Russia is determined to keep Georgia in its sphere of influence, and geography, by the way, is on its side. Such kind of legislative initiatives, of course, strengthen the ability of the ruling team to control the political life and to, let's say, have direct impact almost in every aspect of human life, especially when we speak about the NGO, media, or academic sectors. And from this point of view, the Georgian Dream is benefiting from this momentum, while the opposition is quite ineffective to do something. But it is not the news. We know that the opposition was quite weak even before the elections 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and this is the result. The Georgian Dream was in a very comfortable situation in which it was able to do whatever it wanted. And once the full-scale war in Ukraine erupted, Bidzina and Mr. Ivanishvili made the choice to go towards Moscow. And in this reality, completely unprepared opposition was not able to offer something to use this political own goal. And we see the reality. The coming years will bring greater influence from China, the United Arab Emirates, and Turkey, while Western leverage weakens. And in this context, we have to mention about the geopolitical interests of Moscow. Russia's primary goal under these circumstances is to sever Georgia from the Western orbit, and the tools, economic pressure, energy dependence, I would say political cooptation and disinformation. And in this regard, the Georgian Dream is giving a hand to Moscow.
Exactly, and having unilaterally suspended the EU negotiations, right? The Georgian Dream Party could perhaps envisage a different alliance, for instance, the BRICS. Is it a feasible scenario, according to you? Georgia
it's quite
joining
possible,
BRICS?
but the matter of time, I would say. It is too early to speak about the BRICS because the Georgian Dream right now tries to deal with the mass protests. But we have to be clear, protests may flood Tbilisi, but Georgian Dream is not worried right now. Why? No serious political force is behind them. The opposition is weak, unpopular, and lacks credibility, and the government knows this. And under these circumstances, of course, the various combinations in terms of political alliances are being worked out in the office of the Georgian Dream, and one of them might be the BRICS. Right now, nobody speaks about that loudly in the government, but that's quite possible because if the West loses in the South Caucasus and especially in Tbilisi, which has always been the main ally of the European Union and especially the United States of America, then what happens? Other authoritarian powers might use this opportunity to increase its influence. And many in Georgia right now hope Trump that he will harshly sanction the Georgian Dream. But this is, I would say, wishful thinking. Georgia is far from America's primary and even secondary interests, and nobody knows what's going to happen in this regard. And the West's attention is elsewhere. And in this scenario, BRICS might be quite interesting, I would say, offer for the Georgian Dream, which right now tries to focus and to prove that it's not isolated from the world.
So there's a bidding war with greater Eurasia over Georgia's future between the West and the East. And how about Russia building a new naval base in Ochamchire, Abkhazia? Thus, raised fears that Georgia could somehow be drawn into the war in Ukraine. How likely is this scenario?
First of all, we have to say that Georgia has always been the objective for the different state actors, especially Russian Federation, before Russian Empire and the Soviet Union, Turkey, Iran, the West over the past 20 years. And this is quite natural and normal situation for Georgia if we speak about the historic perspective. And this historic perspective, 20 years mean nothing. But of course, this is our life, and we want to live in the free and democratic Georgia, which should be associated with the West. But the history has different opinions sometimes, and what we see in Georgia is nothing new from this point of view. This is the battlefield, political battlefield, for the different state actors in this region. And as for the question about the Russian military base in Ochamchire, as I have the information, this military base is being constructed. Russia has no plans to make compromises and concessions to Georgia. It does not matter who will be in charge in the Georgian government, how pro-Russian the Georgian political elite will be. Russia will show no compromises in this regard. Russia only demands, requires, but does not provide you with something in return. And that's why every hope and some potential mysterious wishful thinkings about the kind Russia that will embrace Georgia and return the occupied territories is from the category of fairy tales. Moscow has different plans, and Minister Lavrov has already declared about that the dreaming is gratis, but the Georgian territorial integrity, the issue of the Georgian territorial integrity is not under the discussion, because Abkhazia and so-called Skin Valley region are independent states, as he declared. And in this scenario, the construction of military base in Ochemchire, strategically important location, serves the Kremlin interests. It means that Russians will never leave this territory unless this country is weakened.
Thank you so much. This, of course, the situation unfolds, so we will be getting back to it. Thank you so much, Grigol Julukhidze, Associate Professor, Caucasus University.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thank you very much for watching, and please stay tuned to TVP World for more. See you soon.